I am a married woman, okay? I want you to remember this while you're watching this video about Coquito Cheesecake. I'm taken. Even though I don't have my ring on. That was just because I'm working. Hi, my name is Marta, and I am the chef and author at Sense and Edibility. It is a site where I teach you everything you need to know about cooking, baking, and cocktail making. And today we are fusing baking with cocktail making, and I am showing you how to make my Coquito Cheesecake. Now, if Coquito is the pride and joy of Puerto Rico, then Coquito Cheesecake should be the pride and joy of New Yorkers. If you don't know what a New Yorker is, that is a Puerto Rican from New York. My mother was born in San Lorenzo, Puerto Rico, and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to Bushwick. As a result, I've developed a very deep appreciation for New York style cheesecakes. This was one of my mom's favorite desserts. And the internet's favorite. This is a very popular recipe on my site. Today, I decided I want to show you how to make it. You see why I reminded you that I'm a married woman? It is very tempting to want to marry me when I create things like this, but now you can create it yourself. You don't have to go marrying random strangers on YouTube. Even though I'm funny, I'm a great catch because I'm funny, I can cook, I'm smart. Not that I'm pitching myself. Anyways, okay. Let me answer some questions that I usually get about this recipe. Baking your cheesecake in a bain-marie or a water bath, it is just a very efficient way to make sure that there are no fluctuations in the custard as it's baking. You can totally make a cheesecake without a water bath, but if you do, the chances of your cheesecake developing a crack in the center are extremely high. In fact, I haven't seen it yet where somebody makes a cheesecake without a water bath and it doesn't have a crack. If you're not into pretty looking cheesecakes or cheesecakes that are, you know, whole on the top, then go for it. Bake it without the water bath. But why would you do that? It's not that much more effort. It results in a very pretty cheesecake. So that's why I always bake in a water bath. I know it's laborious. I know it's time consuming to go through that 3-step cool down process, but I have been making cheesecakes for more than 20 years and I have yet to develop a crack in the top of my cheesecake. And do you know why that is? It is because I take my time making cheesecakes because I am very passionate about cheesecakes. The reason why I do that cool down step where I open the door of the oven and I allow the cheesecake to cool gradually is because then if I jerk it out of the oven and put it into a chilly, you know, kitchen or in an environment with a different temperature, it could crack. It might not, but again, because I take my cheesecake so seriously, I don't risk it. So I do a gradual cool down inside of the oven with the door propped open for an hour. And then I remove the cheesecake and let it cool, you know, to room temperature for about a half hour, 45 minutes outside of the water bath. And that really is because I don't want to put my still hot cheesecake into my refrigerator, because I always cover my cheesecakes before I put it into the refrigerator. I cover my cheesecakes because cheesecake is notorious for developing a gummy surface on it. So if you put it into the refrigerator overnight to chill, which you should, it may develop a crust on the cheesecake, which again irritates me. I am very finicky about my cheesecakes because of how passionate I am about them. So this is why I go through these steps. So I say all that to say that you should cover the pan that your cheesecake is in before it goes into the refrigerator. And if you cover it while it's still hot, steam will, you know, condense on the plastic and drip back down onto your cheesecake and make it look ugly. We're covering it with a Coquito topping, so it's kind of like, it's not that bad, but it's still not that great. That's why I do that gradual cool down process with my cheesecakes. Now, do you have to do this gradual cool down process with your cheesecakes? I would like you to, just because I want you to be as successful as I am making it. If I were to skip anything in those stages of cooling down, I would probably reduce the time of cooling in the oven to 30 minutes. That's it. That's the only change I would make personally. I would not change baking my cheesecake in a water bath. That is like a no, that's a hard and fast rule for me because of the crack issue. I don't want to deal with a crack in my cheesecake, and I don't want you to either. If you want to make this in mini cheesecakes, you can divide the graham cracker crust among a muffin pan. You just put the graham cracker crust in the bottom of your muffin pan, and then you divide the cheesecake batter equally amongst those cups. Bake it for only 30 minutes. I would still try to find a larger pan to set my muffin pan inside of to bake it in a water bath. Baking mini Coquito cheesecakes in a water bath is not as important as baking a full cheesecake because they bake much quicker and they're smaller, so the risk of them developing a crack is a lot lower than if you're doing a whole cheesecake. You also only need to cool them for about 30 minutes in the oven and then pull them out and chill them like you would the large one. You can totally freeze cheesecakes. What I like to do is freeze this cheesecake without the coquito topping and wait until a few hours before I plan to serve it to top it with the coquito topping. Just because stuff that's sticking with cornstarch, once it starts to thaw, becomes more runny. Something funky happens to the chemical makeup of the cornstarch as it's thawing. And it just, for me, it doesn't look right. It doesn't taste right. The texture isn't the same. So wait until after you've thawed your cheesecake to top it with the coquito topping if you've frozen it. To freeze it, you're going to go through the whole process of cooling it down to room temperature. And what I would do is actually chill it in the refrigerator overnight. Take the collar off of the pan, try to put a knife between the graham cracker crust and the plate of your springform pan, because if you plan to, make another cheesecake later, you want to have your pan free, right? Put it on an 8 or 9 inch cake circle and then wrap it with plastic wrap and then put a layer of foil on it. And then you can freeze it for 2 months. To thaw it, just pull it out of the freezer, take off the foil, which kind of keeps that cold in there. Put it into a refrigerator overnight and you can, top it with the coquito topping later. You don't have to make this with alcoholic coquito. In fact, if you want to serve it to somebody who is abstaining from alcohol, I would recommend making it with virgin coquito. And the reason why is because the rum flavor is still going to be present. We've cooked off most of the alcohol, but a small amount will still remain, probably the equivalent of vanilla extract. So it's not gonna get you drunk. It's not gonna get the kids drunk. But for people who are abstaining from alcohol for any reason whatsoever, you don't want to give them something that still has the flavor of rum, because it could trigger them or it could, just cause a reaction, and we don't want that. So if you have somebody who is purposely abstaining from alcohol, use virgin coquito. If you use the virgin coquito, you don't have to simmer it for 10 minutes to make the coquito topping. You only need to simmer it, or, bring it up to a simmer and then add the coquito cornstarch slurry to it. The reason why we simmer the coquito for 10 minutes before adding the cornstarch slurry to thicken it is to evaporate and cook off some of that rum that's in the coquito. We're not going to cook all of it off, but there won't be as high an alcohol content as there is if we were to just, add the cornstarch. Yeah. So. You don't have to use coquito to make this cheesecake. If you want to make an eggnog cheesecake, all you need to do is replace the coquito with the eggnog in this recipe. Also, swap out the ground cinnamon for ground nutmeg, because that's the flavor of eggnog, right? Ground nutmeg. So you're going to replace the cinnamon in the cheesecake and in the crust with ground nutmeg. And then because there's a small amount of ground nutmeg in the coquito cheesecake batter, you're going to replace that small amount of nutmeg with cinnamon. So you're swapping cinnamon for nutmeg, because the flavor of eggnog is nutmeg, the flavor of coquito is cinnamon. So that makes sense. I hope it makes sense, because I can't. I smoke coming from my brain at this point. If you want to experiment with different flavors in your cheesecake crust, swap out the graham crackers with ginger snap cookies, Biscoff cookies, or you can swap them out with Maria cookies, which are a very popular Latin American cookie. Make sure that anything you replace the graham crackers with for your crust is crispy and crunchy like graham crackers. You don't want to use something soft, because then your cheesecake crust will be mushy. You don't want that. A lot of people ask me why I use cornstarch in my cheesecake recipe. Again, I was raised by a Brooklynite who really respects cheesecake. I mean, you can't come from Brooklyn and not respect cheesecake. Cornstarch in a cheesecake batter just adds volume, it adds body, it gives it bulk. It gives a great mouthfeel when you bite into and eat your cheesecake. You don't want to add the cornstarch too early in the mixing, because over mixing your cornstarch can make your cheesecake gummy. And that's something you really don't want. Cornstarch gets added at the very, very end of the mixing time, and it's just mixed in just until it is incorporated. Don't go crazy after you add the cornstarch. You can replace cornstarch with flour. You would need to decrease the flour to only 1/4 cup. And again, add it at the very end, right as you're finishing up the mixing process of the batter. If you add, well, I guess it's not gluten-free anyway, so yeah. Yeah, you could totally replace the cornstarch with flour. Just decrease the amount of flour to 1/4 cup. The cinnamon sugar topping is completely optional. I do it because it cuts through some of the rum flavor on the Coquito topping. You can omit it if you are if you're a big fan of rum flavor, then omit it. But I mean, you know, it seems like a lot, but it's not a lot. And you see, I didn't even add all of my cinnamon sugar topping. The best way to store your Coquito cheesecake is after you've cut your Coquito cheesecake, you want to take either a piece of wax paper or a piece of parchment paper and press it up against the exposed sides of the cheesecake. The reason why I do that is, one, because it keeps the cheesecake tasting fresh, but it also prevents a gummy crust from forming on the exposed cheesecake. So once you put it into that cold air, the air is going to do what it does, and it's going to cause this gummy texture on the exterior of the cheesecake, and that is just gross. If you want to be even more respectful of the cheesecake, another thing that I do is I wrap the outside with parchment or wax paper, this exposed part of the cheesecake. I mean, if you take this much time making a cheesecake, you have, like, protect it, right? I mean, it's valuable real estate right here. This is important. 3 days. A cheesecake is good after being baked for 3 days. I'm going to say after cutting it for 3 days. I mean, I would go up to 5 days. Truth be told, a cheesecake has never, ever in the history of me making them for myself or my family or my friends has never lasted more than 3 days. We eat this for breakfast, snack, or dessert. So if it lasts that long, then I'd probably still risk it and eat it. But 3 days, 5 days. Let's call it 5 days, right? After you bake it, 3 days. No, yeah, 3 days. Because that's the right thing to say. That's the responsible thing to say. 3 days. After you bake it and cut into it, give it 3 days. And after that, you got to throw it away. So all that means is eat it before 3 days is up. Some other ways I've topped my Coquito cheesecake is I drizzle cajeta over it, which is a goat's milk caramel. I've drizzled salted caramel or chocolate. You can drizzle over it. You can top your Coquito cheesecake with fresh berries. It tastes amazing. The coconut and rum tastes amazing with strawberries, fresh strawberries. Again, that's why I say you don't have to limit yourself to only eating Coquito during the holiday. Eating Coquito, drinking or using Coquito in your recipes just during the holidays. Enjoy life. Eat Coquito. Drink Coquito whenever you want to because you're grown and you pay taxes and you deserve it. You're just gonna have to sit here and watch me enjoy this. Friend, I will never get tired of taking that bite. This cheesecake is creamy. It tastes like something. It's not one of those airy, fluffy, like you put it in your mouth and it kind of disintegrates types of thing. This cheesecake is velvety smooth and it tastes like you're sipping Coquito from the glass. This cheesecake is freaking amazing. This recipe is so popular on my site, usually during the holidays, but I'm on a mission to make it popular year-round. You're going to love the combination of the Coquito and the cheesecake, and it's kind of labor-intensive, but it's so worth it when you taste it. You have to make this cheesecake. Start a day before so that you have time for it to cool and set up properly. But you have to make this Coquito cheesecake. If not for Christmas, make it for Thanksgiving, make it for New Year's, for Tres Reyes, make it, just make it. So good. If you love this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can get updates whenever I post a new video. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button so that people can know that I'm legit. I guess that's the only way to know. Yeah, I'd appreciate it. And leave a comment, especially if you make this cheesecake. Let me know what you think. Yeah, I really want you to try this because everybody needs this cheesecake in their life. I promise you do. So thanks for joining me, and don't forget to keep watching for the outtakes because I'm sure I have some because we all know I'm a clown by this point. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. For adding the, why? I feel like I have eyelashes on me. So I want to show you how I make, why is my light off? If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. My mouth is still watering, so I'm having a difficult time talking. I love this cheesecake.